Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley reporting from Washington, D.C. Now, the hysteria in Wall Street, the end of the recession and the beginning of a new bubble, which is what they all want. They need it. They're hysterically devoted to it. This contrasts, of course, quite crudely with the continuing collapse of the U.S. physical economy. Remember it? The physical economy looks like this. New word this week that foreclosures continue to increase. Foreclosures are now worse than ever. Obama's program of paying money to the predatory mortgage lenders of the Mozilla countrywide stripe, with the most money, of course, going to J.P. Morgan Financial, that has been a failure as far as people are concerned. The bankers, of course, have used it as yet another channel to rake in ill-gotten gains, rent-seeking. Bankers at the public trough. So that's the foreclosure story. I think it's 1.5 million so far this year, and heading upwards anyway. We'll check the figures in the coming weeks. 10% of U.S. homeowners who have mortgages are now in arrears 1, 2, 3 months, and they're on their way to foreclosure. The estimate now is about 11 to 12% of the U.S. population lives on food stamps. $125 per month for a single person, $250 for a family. I ask our Austrian friends, what should happen to these people? You don't like the nanny state? If 10% of your population, 11% or 12%, is living on food stamps, what should happen? Should they die for the greater glory of the free market, for the ghost of von Hayek, von Mises, and Milton Friedman, and these other crackpots? Well, I hope not, because that's in that case we then move to the Nuremberg side of the ledger. We've also got 10% or almost 10% officially unemployed. That means 16% officially underemployed and unemployed. And if it's 16% according to the government figures, that is those who are unemployed and underemployed, that really means 20 to 25% unemployed. So we are in one heck of a depression. World trade down 30 to 40% from this time last year. Now, let's look at the biggest attack on Christmas since Oliver Cromwell, being carried out now by Obama, Geithner, Summers, and Sheila Bair. Don't forget her over at the FDIC, right? Every Friday we have to remember her because she didn't shut down J.P. Morgan Chase, Citibank, Bank of America, and Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley, by the way, we got to give credit where credit is due. They have come up with a new form of derivative. Yes, a new form of derivative from Morgan Stanley. It's called the CLO. It's not a credit, a collateralized. It used to be CDO, collateralized debt obligation, but now because that obviously got a bad rap along with credit default swaps. It's now a CLO, a collateralized loan obligation. So Morgan Stanley, got to get the Morgan straight. Morgan Stanley is now here to tell you that a CLO, a new derivative, which is, of course, the old CDO in drag, in a disguise for Halloween, they're here to tell you that a CLO is something fresh and new. So the impulse for derivatives is incorrigible. These people are like alcoholics, heroin addicts. The only thing they can do is derivatives. And, of course, AIG wants to give $250 million of taxpayer money, because that's what it is, to these brilliant quants, these brilliant yuppie quants, these experts in Black-Scholes and other models that are used to claim what the values of derivatives are. They could hire me for almost nothing. They're worthless. They have negative value. They're like the Rasputin in the Al Cap cartoon. But even Jamie Dimon, the chief figurehead of the current corporate state, and I guess we have to call it a fascist corporate state because that's pretty much what it is. Jamie Dimon has written an op-ed, a recent opinion piece. Jamie Dimon warned against overly restrictive regulations on the sales of derivatives, which can be used to manage financial risks or to gamble. J.P. Morgan Chase is one of the largest participants in that market, the derivatives market. Yes, you're right. This is from the Washington Post of today, Friday, July 17th. Yes, indeed. J.P. Morgan Chase is the premier derivatives monster of the world. And whatever total of derivatives there is in the world, 1.5 quadrillion is still the best guess we have. You can figure that J.P. Morgan Chase is up there with about, one-third to one-fourth of that entire total. So this is a black hole capable of sucking in the entire known universe. Naturally, even the timid and ridiculous milquetoast reforms on derivatives proposed by Geithner, not acceptable to Jamie Dimon. But now let's look at how this corporate state works. Remember, the corporate state is a compulsory state-sponsored cartel for the purpose of driving down production, driving down wages, and propping up fictitious speculative capital in the form mostly today of derivatives, but also other kinds of speculative excesses. Now, this has been done in Detroit, right? Whatever these right-wing nutcases think they see, what's going on there is the corporate state. It's not socialism, not communism. It's the fascist corporate state. It's different. The idea now is you can see Detroit production going down. The wages and benefits have been driven down to the level of the Southern right-to-work, Taft-Hartley sweatshop economy. The UAW has essentially voted itself out of existence, and the right-wing commentators think that Barkey has done a favor for the UAW by looting their health care fund to the tune of $6 billion, which was then transferred to J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs, and also then by essentially driving down their wages and their benefits packages. That's just great. With those kinds of friends, you don't need enemies. So, but now let's look at the current moment. Remember, in the corporate state, the government, the regime, picks winners and losers. Now, the winners are quite obvious. J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs are the key winners in some ways because they represent the worst derivatives and speculative excesses. Let's look at some of the losers. Right? We've had Washington Mutual as a loser. We've had other people as losers. Bank of America, to some degree, a loser, forced to eat the losses of Merrill Lynch. That was a big hearing this past week with Paulson testifying, Bernanke testifying. By the way, Bernanke, of course, is a gangster. He should be impeached. What more do we need? They don't even need an audit to know that. It'd be nice to audit him and get the evidence, but start impeaching Bernanke, and then you can audit the Fed at the same time. But now let's look at CIT, because this gets us into the area of how economics actually works. CIT, what is this? This is a fairly large finance operation. It is about 1/8 the size of Lehman Brothers. That means it's substantial. If it blows, as it seems like it's going to blow, this will be the largest bank failure in the U.S., or the largest failure of a financial institution since Lehman Brothers, since last September. And the tremors on this are simply huge. The zombie banks, as we've been saying, long ago gave up providing credit for industry, for commerce, for trade, or for anything else. They do derivatives, and they do their own proprietary trading speculation. So that means there's this whole area where finance is necessary, and the big banks won't do it. So who does it? CIT is the leading example of a company which operates in that area, which has been increasingly abandoned by these other ones. Manufacturers Hanover used to do some of this stuff. So CIT has now got a $7.5 billion hole in its books. They've gotten $2 billion off the top. They're still about to go bankrupt, and Obama, Geithner, Summers want to drive them bankrupt. Tell you why in just a minute.